All right, I'll say greetings this evening of your time. How are you all? Oh, thank you very much. Quite alive this evening. Relax. Find a comfortable position within your seat. Before we begin, perhaps what you may call the excursion, picture the following idea. See your physical body floating wherever it is you wish in the water and space. Use your imagination. As you do begin to form the image of yourself floating, begin to see yourself surrounded by a blue-white bubble with, again, what you consider to be your body within the center. Now come to realize that this bubble of energy, this energy seed, is not indeed empty, and in fact contains a jelly-like substance that you are now suspended within, that now supports, in that sense, your weight from all sides, from all angles, thereby still maintaining the sense of floating with no resistance. You are simply suspended within the blue-white gelatinous substance of the bubble itself. Slowly, as you perceive against what you consider to be your skin, the jelly, begin to envision your skin dissolving, the barrier that separates you from the environment of the bubble itself. Allow it to begin to dissolve so that a bit at a time, the gelatinous material of the bubble begins to permeate your body. And there is no longer a fine separation between the two. Allow them to now begin to meld and mesh and combine. Slowly begin to release the sense of your body itself as this fluid permeates every cell, every corpuscle, every molecule, every atom, every atomic space, every subatomic particle, every superstring of your being. Allow it to be bathed in the blue-white substance of this bubble, and no longer perceive yourself as the collection of parts that you do, but allow yourself to now be perceived as the bubble itself. One idea, one expression, homogeneous throughout. Understand the following. You are pure consciousness itself. You express the reality that you perceive that you exist within from your consciousness. Feel how it feels to be one with this idea. Feel the liberation of being one unbroken, complete statement, complete idea. No longer placing an emphasis on one part versus another part, but truly seeing yourself as the one whole being that you are, floating within a reality that is, in fact, also made of you. Feel how it feels. Now slowly begin to reform within the substance of the bubble what you consider to be your physical body, understanding that you have now smoothed out the wrinkles, that you have in that sense homogenized what was formerly many different ideas. And as you reform your physical body within the bubble, understand that you are rebirthing yourself literally, for you are forming from the entire substance that you are, the new preferred you, and allowing everything else to be valid, to exist, but no longer need be incorporated or corporated within your body. They are existing within your consciousness. But as you reform your perception of your body, do so only from preference, only from excitement. For you are literally recreating yourself in this moment. Allow the sense of your body to begin to return, and begin now to once again feel as that body. And slowly begin to allow the substance of the bubble to begin to dissolve, now that it has in that sense served its purpose. At your own pace, again reacclimate to your environment, to your room, to your chair. Now, before we proceed, first of all, Maui, is your tape machine functioning properly? All right. When we last, Bashar and myself, interacted with you, many of you, in transporting your consciousness to our mothercraft, we did so after laying down a foundation. That foundation was the idea that you are home itself, and that home is nowhere in that sense to go to. You bring it with you. You are the home. The reality moves around you. Perhaps you can label that process a style of grounding for before embarking upon such a trip to our ship. It is our desire that you are firmly grounded in your reality, for that is where you have chosen to be and where you will act from. So therefore, what has occurred up till this point in this interaction is an alignment with yourself, with your wholeness, with your fullness, but also by virtue of the fact that the bubble was blue-white in nature, was also an alignment and a direct identification with your planet itself, your home away from home, so to speak. That, in a sense, is a form of grounding. So we are now prepared to proceed. Before we do, again, continue, understand that one of our craft has been brought into your general vicinity for perhaps a reference point. Perhaps you can say it is, colloquially speaking, parked near your planet of Mars at this time. Your imagination, a tool that we have discussed many times as being just that, a tool, an instrument, a useful barometer, will, as we proceed in this interaction, make its contributions. We request that you allow it to do so without invalidating it. That is your own particular way to cater your experience to the mass experience that we are enjoying. So therefore, do not feel that anything from your imagination is an interruption. For if you do, then your experience may be of being interrupted. But simply, if you will understand that it is an essential part of your experience of the process and allow it free rein, this is what will deliver to you the maximal effect from this particular journey. Now, at this timing, this journey is one of energy and consciousness. So perhaps from the standpoint of your physical body, it will seem in some sense that you are still sitting in your seat. But understand that you will be aboard that craft. We are literally physically in proximity, and you will be aboard that craft. What you consider to be your history will be enhanced by this experience. It will be a memory, and you will have the full effects of having been there. But if you are willing to loosen up and allow your imagination to work full time, you will, in your consciousness, very clearly have discrete experience. So therefore, allow the free rein of your imagination without invalidating it. And understand that no matter how you may choose to interpret and create it later, you will be aboard that craft. Close your eyes if you have not already done so. Picture yourselves once again, and for the first time, as many facets of one whole crystal, gathering yourself together, becoming an integral part, so to speak, of the one whole crystal that will comprise, for the purposes of this interaction, our scout craft. Some of the facets lying just next to you may indeed be familiar, but there may here and there be other facets which are not. Those are, in a sense, the facets which will represent other individuals who are either not physically present right now or who will seemingly partake of this interaction later in your tape format. But nevertheless, it is one event, one trip. And because time streams between our society and your society are quite arbitrary, everything fits and it all works out just fine. Therefore, again, you may recognize some of the facets next to you, you may not. Either way, you are intimately related. As you picture yourself gathering together as the master crystal, begin to allow round and about you the formation of a gray, misty fog. And through that fog, just at the other side of it perhaps, in your mind's eye, see vaguely the room that you are in begin to fade from your view, so that your entire perception is filled with this gray limbo fog. Completely allow any idea of a physical room to dissolve so that you now only exist at the center of your being, surrounded by this isolation field. And understand the following. While you are within this field, you literally are everywhere and nowhere at the same time. For this field factors out time and space and allows you to be pure beingness without the definitional boundary of a place in space and time. So right now you are at your center point where all realities, all possibilities, all dimensions, all experience is equally distant from you and therefore equally accessible. You are truly at the center of the universe that you are. The ship that has been brought into your vicinity for the purposes of briefing you is approximately 5,000 to 7,000 of your feet long, approximately 1/10 of that distance in diameter. It is cylindrical and a tube within a tube within a tube, 30 tubes altogether, thereby giving you a 60-deck cross-section. The center of the cylinder, the central core of the vessel itself, which perhaps you can say to some degree will contain, for lack of better terminology, the power unit, will be up for all decks. So therefore, the concave surface of the cylinder will be, colloquially speaking, the floor. At both ends are what you would label perhaps the bridge, control center, whatever you wish, as well as center region itself. See in your mind's eye as you begin to reappear in time and space, just outside the vessel. Begin to see the vessel itself. In our ancient language, the vibration that would identify this particular vessel would translate into your language as the solar wind. A ship that is quite familiar with your system. Begin now to allow en masse yourselves to move toward the vessel. And as you approach its outermost hull, perhaps you will perceive an aperture, an opening, through which en masse you all will pass. Simply allow yourself to be attracted into the substance of the ship itself. As you, in that sense, do materialize within the outermost deck of the ship, now contained within the substance of the ship itself, allow yourself to once again become the discrete individuals that you consider yourself to be. As you do so, understand that you have entered into our realm, and that what you are feeling and experiencing is a direct result of our projection of consciousness. It is our ecstatic joy to have you aboard our craft at this time. Simply, you may understand that the rules are quite loose upon the craft, and that you can at will teleport from deck to deck by simply desiring to do so, by simply allowing yourself to be attracted to whatever it is that will be perfect for you to interact with. Understand that if certain things will come as images to what you consider to be your mind's eye, that many times they will simply be symbolic representations, but they will do. Allow them to come in whatever form that they will. Allow yourself to simply be where you need to be, when you need to be there. For this is how we live. This is our approach to reality. Therefore, in participating with us in our reality at this time, you also have the opportunity to loosen up, to let go of what you would call an agenda, and simply spontaneously flow within the substance of our craft. Allow yourself to be attracted to whatever regions that you will, and understand that there are many individuals that are, in that sense, partaking of you, relishing you. Perhaps at first you will perceive a central fog through which many figures will begin to emerge, but allow your imagination to create the emergence of the awareness of our presence in whatever way that it will. If there are any particular individuals that you wish to interact with, understand that simply by allowing yourself to feel how those individuals allow you to feel, that will immediately attract them physically to you, and that you can then directly interact face to face with them. Understand that the nature of our particular consciousness is such that we always experience 100% complete, unconditional love. And what you are feeling is that love washing over you, permeating through you, and allowing you to identify with your own particular portion of that unconditional love. Therefore, there is nothing overwhelming about it. Simply enjoy it, swim in it. And understand also what perhaps you are feeling is a lack of hesitation, a entire lack of what you sometimes call doubt. For in our particular approach, we are fully committed in any moment to anything that we are doing. Therefore, allow this feeling to emerge within you. Understand that the many things that you may be beholding will include our civilization, but that there are many other representatives for many other civilizations aboard the craft at this time, in that sense, waiting to meet with you, waiting to interact with you. So therefore, you may see perhaps a few things that are a bit unfamiliar. Simply allow yourself to trust that you have attracted exactly the type of interaction that will not only benefit you most greatly, but the other individuals involved as well. Also understand that we do not keep our children locked up at home. Therefore, they are aboard the craft as well. And you may, in that sense, interact with them, as well as the children for, again, many other of the civilizations present. Be aware of any exchanges that take place, whether you choose to give a gift or whether you receive one. and make note of the symbology of it, for there are literal exchanges taking place. Allowing the continuation of the experiences that you are partaking of right now. Begin to be aware that the group that you have in that sense transported with are beginning to move toward a central room. As you, in that sense, integrate yourself back with the group, you may now perceive that the room that you are entering together is perhaps theater-like. Allow yourselves to come in and make yourselves comfortable. Now that you are all conglomerated in one place at one time, so to speak, understand that you are within what you may colloquially call the conference room for the association of worlds itself. Therefore, pay particular attention to what you see, to who you see, to the many different styles and types of beings that are present, as well as those that are, shall we say, colloquially speaking, holographically reconstructed and sharing this interaction with you in that format, remotely. As you interact and go about your business, interacting in this room, in this format, we again remind you of 5 ideas. Allow yourselves to continue your interaction and have what I am sharing simply be in the background. Number 1, unconditionally love yourself and others. Number 2, everything is synchronicity. Act as though this is so. Number 3, in any given moment from what's available, do what excites you with integrity. Do what excites you. Number 4, all situations have no built-in meaning. You are the literal assigners of meaning, and the meanings you assign determine the effects you get out. And number 5, the present is not a result of the past. Now is the only experiential time there is, and you get to choose how you will exist in that now. Again, reiterating what would translate into your language as tenets of association membership, continue to interact. Pay particular attention to the lights and sounds and allow your senses to become fully involved with what you are experiencing. Begin now to gather yourselves back together. As you do, reform the master crystal. Once again, surround yourself with the gray fog. This time, however, maintain some awareness of what is outside that fog. And as a unit, picture yourself beginning to drift through each deck, one at a time. You are now nearing the periphery and soon will exit the craft. Feel the membrane of the outer hull of the craft as it caresses you as you pass through it. As you now materialize outside the craft, before beginning our final approach to your planet, perhaps you can look a little bit to the left at what you consider to be your Mars, for you generally do not have such a good view. Notice the many canals and features that perhaps you were not aware of before. For many new discoveries are about to come out about this planet. Begin to allow the energy seed that you all are, the master crystal, to begin now to approach your planet Earth. Before you, in that sense, begin to enter the outer atmosphere of your Earth, allow the craft that you are to hang in space and behold your planet, the emerald green crystalline planet Earth, and understand the following. Though it is our joy to interact with you, though it is our ecstasy to interchange and exchange with you, your planet is your planet. It is the point. Our interactions are peripheral in that sense to the main point before you, the planet you see before you. And understand that we view this planet in its splendor, in its beauty. Allow yourselves now to begin to perceive that joy, that attraction, that lovingness. For this is where you have chosen to express your consciousness in this particular period, so to speak, of the life of your soul, so to speak. Therefore, you are not leaving someplace wondrous to return to someplace mundane. This is the splendorous, wondrous place that you have chosen to explore. As we now begin to enter into your atmosphere, begin to feel the joy of that choice. Begin to feel the anticipation of bringing back the experience that you have, but bringing it back to the earth that you have chosen to exist upon. For your willingness to do, to act, to be in this world, on this planet, using the motivation from the experiences that you have, and midwifing them into your reality with action is what will change and already has transformed your entire reality. So before we begin to rematerialize in this room, I will simply ask you all now to repeat after me. There's no place like home. Now perhaps we will do that again. Do proceed.
There's no place like home.
Oh, thank you. Allow yourselves to begin to rematerialize in your room. And also understand you also have your title for tonight's session. Before we proceed to the interaction, allow us to also say that perhaps a bit sneakily, there is a double meaning in that title. For again, you are home, and there is no place that you need go to that is home. Home is not even a place, but this is the chosen reality. So therefore it is, perhaps you can say, temporary lodging. As you do begin to recreate the room round and about you and allow the isolation field to dissolve completely, allow us to thank you for your willingness to share with us on a level that we consider most intimate. For we have accepted your invitation to interact with you in this format at this time. And it is as joyful to us that you have accepted our invitation. The willingness and the degree of willingness that you have to validate the experience that has just occurred will add unto you, unto the equation that you define yourself to be, as any other memory would. Therefore, you may now, within the totality that you consider yourself to be, understand that what we have just shared is a valid memory, is an experience. I thank you. We all thank you. How now may I be of service to you? Shedding. Ace.
First, I wanted to thank you for that.
And you as well.
I wanted to ask about the first being that sort of startled me because it wasn't what I expected to see.
Well, how exciting, and congratulations.
With the elongated chin and much darker than what I expected. And the gift, I wanted to ask about what was the significance of the pendant and the variation on the temple?
Do perhaps speak a bit louder.
Okay. The significance of the pendant and
describe.
It was round, and it was similar to the triangular shape, but the circles, it wasn't like any of the templates that I had seen. It's different. And I wonder if there's significance to the variation on it.
In a sense, perhaps you can say it is more representative of your own discrete vibration. And if you are in that sense to draw your perception of what you are saying, what was shared with you is a personal, meditative, perhaps you can say koan or symbol that will enable you by concentrating upon it to reach very deep meditative states.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. In terms of the being, we will allow you, when you are in those deep meditative states, to ask the being. For you have established contact. We thank you. Shedding.
Elan.
Ace.
Hi.
Greetings.
Thank you. And I wanted to share my interaction initially with the children and my joy and love to them. The first thing that happened was I went to a place invited by Kaija and Misha and found them like on these velvet pillows kind of sitting there.
Well, in a sense, that was your interpretation. We have no velvet, we have no pillows.
I gave it to them.
All right.
In my imagination. And they were talking to children who wanted me to tell stories. And I told stories.
Ace.
And we'll continue tonight in dream state.
All right. Perhaps you will be told a few yourself.
Yes, and that was my wish. Is my wish.
All right.
They said, "What is that? What is that all around you?" And I looked and I saw the fairies that I brought with me. and that I hadn't noticed that had come with me. And I let them all go, the fairies all go with the children and be with them. And that was a lot of fun.
Oh, yes, for them as well.
In the theater place with the association,
Ice.
there was so much going on that I didn't want to try to focus on certain things.
You will find it to be a complete statement, which perhaps will necessitate, due to your linear perspective, an unfolding. So it will become more apparent in a linear sense as you look back on it, and this applies to you all.
Yes.
Much time was enfolded in what you may have perceived to be a short period of time.
Exactly.
Our experience of it was far longer than yours.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And the last experience briefly was when we were moving through the atmosphere and the outer membrane of the ship. Right after we were looking at Mars, I saw an image of a hand, the knuckles of a hand with rings all the way on all the fingers, like bright
All right.
gems.
Did you see any craft?
Seemed very clear, like an almost transparent craft.
There were several other craft present in the area, beholding.
Do you have any more information about that hand?
Well, in a sense, it is our perception that that was your interpretation of a craft. That is why I asked.
Yeah, that could be, because it was in a neat shape.
Was there, of the children, one particular child that stood out?
Yes.
All right.
And we exchanged gifts, and they gave me two things. Well, the children gave me a hat that was triangular, kind of very soft, but triangular and purple.
All right. Perhaps you can say our version of a party hat.
That was very nice. And it had, it was a symbol also of the child consciousness. They were giving me access or
To your inner child, yes.
Okay.
But also, again, the hat, the significance of the hat being in that particular shape is, in a sense, a lens for what you have formerly called your wizard cap, that particular coned, shall we say, shape, focuses energy in a particular way. Hence, the translation into your society of what you call wizard hat, witch hat, and then also, interestingly enough, perhaps more historically than presently, when individuals were considered less than smart, they were sat in the corner with such a hat.
yes.
There was, shall we say, perhaps some misunderstandings, but the basic overall reasoning was the particular way in which that shape focuses, literally the electromagnetic field of your planet itself. So perhaps you may now understand when you are partying in these hats, you are quite connected.
And the other gift they offered me was in the association, in the room there with the association assembled. There was a being who gave me it was like an ancient being, very wise energy, and gave me a very smooth, heavy stone carved in like almost a three-leaf clover kind of shape.
Nice. In a sense, you may understand that to be a balance. For as the hat, in a sense, represents your upper connection, so to speak, the stone, so to speak, represents the grounding at the same time, thereby completing the circuit.
Exactly. Thank you.
Oh, we thank you. Shutting.
Elan.
Ace, female.
Hi, Elan.
And to you, greetings.
Well, I made it from Nantucket. I got guidance to come tonight, so I came.
As was shared, you would have been there either way.
Right, I remember you telling me that. I felt going on to the ship. I felt a little bit of hesitation.
All right. Why?
A little bit of expectations.
All right.
And a little fear.
About what?
I think about I think that the fear was about when we had spoke before about my connection with Alioto and my if my willingness is to channel her in such a manner as Andrew channels you. And since that I feel excitement and fear about that.
By the way, you feel excitement, but when you interpret it negatively, it comes off as anxiety.
Right.
But anxiety and excitement are the exact same energy, one with a positive interpretation, one with a negative. So it is pure excitement, but do proceed.
Thank you for that. Thank you. But once I was on the ship, I got very excited.
Oh, yes.
The only thing that physically, and then I saw Aliota and I got very excited and,
didn't think about the back much more, did you?
no.
Didn't think about the fear much more, did
No,
you?
I got very excited, like I was an old friend and how wonderful, and she was very giddy, and I had these images of what an extraterrestrial would be like.
By the way, we are all, perhaps to use that term, very giddy. Also understand the microcosmic analogy that has occurred. As you have a hesitation, as you have a fear, if you are still willing to step forward, as an analogy, break through, so to speak, you will always find that degree of support and unconditional love from our end.
Yeah.
Therefore, this can be now extrapolated to your physical situation and your willingness to ground it in actions here on earth is the point. Do proceed.
Yes. So, also who was with her was Katiba, who I believe is my future self as a very small child.
In a sense, very creative, yes.
Okay. And then she brought me Aliota to meet, who I believe was a male. Maybe her other half or her males. I'm not sure how that works.
Well, in this case, we will request that you ask her. You have a direct line.
Okay. And she was showing me to all these people, like she was so excited, and I was so surprised that she was so excited.
Why?
I don't know.
Well, again, now you have a taste
Right.
of our ever ongoing effervescent excitement.
And it reminded me of myself when I was a child, and I would get so excited that I'd almost hyperventilate in a sense.
Do understand the analogy is quite accurate, and that is the Kativa energy within you.
Oh.
The inner child.
Because when I was a child, my parents would give me half a Valium to calm down.
All right.
How excited I got.
All right. That's one way to do it, I suppose.
So that was wonderful. And then I met a woman, or I perceived, it looked like a goddess, with a cape on. And I met her the other night also. Nice. And she, almost was like my ancient self or my higher self in a sense, or that's my sense of it.
That will do as an analogy, again, as you have stated, the goddess, goddess within, but also some ancient ties.
Yeah, very ancient ties, and very, very proud person in a sense of, incredible integrity. She, gave me a sapphire.
All the energies are in place for you to draw directly from. And are you, in that sense, to feel, perhaps as you sometimes call it, the need for that type of support? That is an energy within yourself that you can invoke, tap into, and if you are willing to match, transform, and express that same degree of, as you have said, pride. But not in a selfish way.
No, it wasn't that type of pride. It was like a lioness type. A lion is the only word I can think of.
All right.
But the sapphire to me meant, and it was in her third eye, the sapphire, and she removed it from her third eye and gave it to me to put in place in my third eye.
Nice, but this will also have, shall we say, some degree of a connection to what you call the root chakra as well.
How so? I don't feel the connection.
Describe the sapphire.
It was almost oval.
Coloration.
Purplish. That's what color it looked like to me. Yeah.
All right. Simply, again, for the purposes of practicality, also be aware of the root chakra. And as you are meditating and in touch with many aspects, the connection will become obvious. But it has to do with, while having your head in the clouds, firmly grounding yourself within and through the actions on your earth.
Right. That's the sense I got when we were leaving the craft, looking at the earth, that, in a sense, I'm to bring those gifts in me to manifest them on the physical plane of the earth. And that's why I've chosen to have my soul in this particular planet right now.
Then allow me to express my joy in having done my job.
Right.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah. That feels, yeah.
Is there anything else?
There's one other thing that is coming up. Okay. Am I, in the sense, we talked about me having a future self on Essassani. Am I a being who is from Essassani, in a sense? I mean, I know we're not from anywhere, but who has lived there prior and is visiting the earth, or have I been?
You would translate it as a future life.
Okay.
But from that perspective, on that end, again, it becomes a bit more arbitrary and may seem from that end that it has emanated from that end. But that will always be the case, whichever end you are on.
And is there any symbol that I could use to start? I plan on maybe, tomorrow morning to start. I've connected with Aliota in meditation every day now, and I can feel her presence and feel the energy moving through my body. Is there a symbol that I may use when I actually start to channel it verbally out loud?
Perhaps what you would call a double tetrahedron, which is two three-sided pyramids with a triangular base, base to base. It, in a sense, is a siphon or funnel from the non-physical to the physical through the center of your being. As a symbol, that will do.
Okay.
Is that clear?
Yes.
We thank you.
Thank you.
We also again remind you that the symbol of a black triangle upon a black background with a backlighting of blue, allowing the triangle to stand out in relief upon the black background, is another vibrational, shall we say, symbol that will call you to our particular realm. We thank you. Ace.
Thank you for facilitating our journey tonight.
Thank you for participating.
After we entered the craft, even before you spoke about the children, my first exploration was to look for the children.
You will find others as well to have had that common experience.
And I did find children in what I perceived to be a play area, playing with balls of light.
Nice.
And they were throwing them back and forth, and I watched for a while, and then one was thrown to me, and I was a little hesitant at first. I thought it might be like hot.
Oh no.
Like electricity.
Would not do that to you.
But it was just such a shock. And then I noticed what looked like, I don't know so much if it was a wall, but it seemed like a wall of boxes of light of different colors that could be chosen by the children to play with.
Nice.
And inside each box or containment of a ball of light, there was a tremendous amount of movement. It was very fluid.
Well, as we have sometimes described and named, there is a form of light, perhaps you can call it, that we will refer to colloquially, for lack of a better term, as liquid light. And you are perceiving perhaps what you would have interpreted to be a particular area whereby a volume of that substance was particularly, quote unquote, stored, so to speak.
I found it very fascinating.
Nice.
I felt
It is very malleable as well. You will sometimes find the balls, per se, to change shape very greatly as they are in mid-flight.
it was really fun.
They change shape and are affected directly by the consciousness of the participants. And in fact, are perceived as spheres because that is the concentration of the liquid light.
That's really great. Also, when I went to the gathering in the conference room, there were beings in there, but I was totally drawn to one.
Describe.
It looked like the type, an Essassani being. It's a type that I've seen on the T-shirts that Maui has channeled through. My sense was that it was a female, sort of grayish white skin, very rounded head, very large, up-tilted dark, almost almond black eyes. And I went to this being that I felt totally attracted to, and we were sharing telepathically. I asked her if I could just explore her energy field, and she said yes.
Of course.
And I outstretched my hands and was just mesmerized by the love that was just bathing me.
Did you perceive her hands?
Yes.
Describe. How many fingers?
Oh. No, maybe 3 or 4.
Perhaps 4. Do understand that you are interacting with a particular version, not often discussed by us, and we will not elaborate too much, but of a member of the Reticulum Society.
Can you tell me something about this being? The name?
Perhaps the idea is that that being will often act as a conduit toward other forms of life, will be a front person, so to speak, many times in the interactions between your civilization and Reticulum civilization, is very often perceived by individuals who physically interact with the Reticulum as a maternal, comforting energy.
I felt very much that it was female, that this being was female, and that she loved me.
Oh, yes.
And was very open to my my interaction with her. I was also interested in an earlier portion to see what your food was, and I was trying to find how you serve food.
What did you find? Not much.
Yeah.
We do not eat that often anymore. It is remnant or vestigial for us, for we are now beginning to absorb energy directly as we consciously begin to drop external symbols as having a need for an external sustenance. However, perhaps you can say for your convenience, there was a smorgasbord for you. But looking for our food perhaps would keep you looking for a while.
Well, I just wanted to thank you for this journey, because I very much felt the unconditional love that was bathing me.
And when you felt it, you matched it. You created your own version of it to be able to even feel it. So understand the value is that you now know beyond the shadow of a doubt that you contain that unconditional love, and your willingness to express it to yourself and others, now that you know it's there, will have many beneficial and immediate results.
Thank you.
We thank you. Shedding.
Elan.
Ice.
Yeah, greetings.
And to you.
I enjoyed our trip to your ship very much. But it's not about that I want to ask tonight.
All right.
It's about our conversation a couple weeks ago with my friend Bob, where we were talking about quantum physics in the pyramid. He has built a very nice pyramid out of acrylic. And after your suggestion that we top that pyramid with an octahedral crystal to make a cap for the pyramid.
Ice. As the, shall we say, more ancient Atlantean versions did.
Exactly. We plan on tapping into that crystal with a copper rod extended down into the top 1/3 of the pyramid into a copper block, as you suggested.
Well, the suggestion was that you continue it down to a copper base.
Okay, to the copper base, okay.
But perhaps if you should choose to take measurements, 1/3 of the way down would be the, shall we say, primary focus area, whereby perhaps you will get physical measurements.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted to ask about. How should we begin to explore the energy of this device?
In whatever way your imagination provides, in what is available. Then when you are, and shall we say, willing to take those steps, get those results, we can perhaps discuss some more diverse ideas that perhaps you would not think of. But for now, use any means at your disposal. Take the actions. Take the readings, make the connections within you and the suppositions from the results that you get. That will be the first step. Or perhaps the second, the building was the first.
I see.
We will involve you in the process rather than simply hand it over.
Yeah, that's what I expect.
Oh, thank you.
Would this bring about a belief of something that we might label tetrahedral geometry, which involves placing a pyramid at the longitude of between 19 and 20 degrees to harness the earth energy?
It is not our awareness that the terminology in that case would be tetrahedral, but there will be an effect from doing so.
I see. Okay. Well, I'll experiment with this on my own, and when I have my measurements, I'll ask you again.
All right. But by all means, do have fun doing so.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, we thank you as well.
Elan?
Shedding ice.
Hi, Elan.
Greetings.
I thoroughly enjoyed being aboard the ship, and I appreciate the guidance coming back because it was a little hard for me to leave.
All right. Do you understand, though, that where you were going to, your Earth, is truly the point?
Yes.
All right.
That little reminder was inspired me to realign to wanting to bring back the experience here to the degree that I felt it there.
Well, again, that is the point. And the grounding of the ideas is the only thing that then enables you to share it with other beings.
All right, I want to share a little bit, and then I have a little question about it.
All right.
This time I was drawn immediately to the room with the children.
Ice.
And I felt like I got into my usual habit of wanting to give, and then I felt immediately that I was just being given to by their joy, by the light, by the freedom. And I just want to send my thanks to them. It was pure delight.
Do understand that your willingness to receive was a service to them by allowing them the sharing of the giving. We thank you.
Then I went to, it seemed like a large room where I was dancing. And I just lifted off the restrictions that I had, any restrictions I had brought with me. And I felt it was either an exercise room or it was a self-expression room or it was everything.
Perhaps for a label, a recreation room. For you may very readily in that space redefine who you are and recreate.
And it brought out the memory of the dancer in me, which I have not manifested in this lifetime. And it was such a delight to be in that body.
Well, understand that is the body that you're in. Otherwise, it would not excite you.
We weren't given bodies to go into there.
What I am saying is that the body you are sitting in is also the body of the dancer, if you should choose, now that you understand that, to express it. You need not keep it on the mental plane. Your excitement about the dancing and recognition of connection to it is your indication that you can do it. And simply now your willingness to act, ground it, attract whatever symbols through synchronicity you will be able to allow you to express it should you choose to.
Yes.
It is nothing that is barred from you.
Okay. Then I also saw something about food. It reminded me of the restaurant aboard the Star Trek ship or something.
Oh, all right.
It was really nice. And I also saw a little clearly one of the beings like was on one of Maui's shirts. And then my meeting with Shira came a little later, and I really saw her hair.
Nice.
And
Color.
White.
Nice.
And I was a little surprised that we didn't connect at first, as soon as I entered the ship. But I don't know what that was about.
Timing.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Nice. It allowed you to get your feet wet, have a good time, walk around, and then have some company.
Okay. Last night I channeled her.
Nice.
Yes?
You're asking me?
I was thoroughly exhausted, the time when I think I can't do anything. And I sat up in my bed and I spoke, and I felt her with me.
Nice.
And when I was aboard the ship, I just felt us, let's see, I wrote this down, otherwise I'll forget it. I just felt us firmly rooted with each other now.
Did you join hands?
There was some kind of contact between our bodies, whether it was hugging each other, arms around each other, or our shoulder to shoulder, something.
All right.
Okay. I felt our oneness in some way, not exactly, but connection. It was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Then when we went to the conference room or the auditorium or whatever it was, I saw myself at a podium speaking. And that's what my question is about. Was that symbolic, or did that happen?
Well, in a sense, it occurred upon the craft, but it is also symbolic of what you are now choosing to express down here, so to speak.
Okay.
Obviously.
Yes. And I felt that all that was going on was a little inspiration, big inspiration to bring back here.
That is the point, again.
The unconditional love, the joy, the freedom.
Did you feel that love?
Yes.
We again remind you all, when you felt it, perhaps perceiving it was from us, you created it, you matched it, you created your version of it. When you felt it, that was your direct evidence that it is that simple to recreate it within yourself. And you can do so anytime, using us as a symbol if you wish, but that is not necessary. The love you felt was the unconditional love of yourself, of all that is, of us all at once. Your version of it.
I see myself beginning to do channeling to groups.
Well, how exciting.
Yeah.
When will you do so?
It's coming.
Oh, coming. All right. Is it here yet?
I have to practice alone in my bedroom first.
All right, if you say so.
It'll come through the group. I'm sure it'll come through the group. At one point, when I believe I was with Shira, she was introducing me to a male. And and last night she had said something about that to me. That I was going to meet someone who was my father there or something. I don't know what that was, and I did not get a clear picture on this.
Play around with it.
All right.
Is there anything else?
That's as much as I remember.
All right.
Thank you.
Did you have a good time?
I had a wondrous time.
Oh, thank you. As did we all. Was there anyone present who actually, in that sense, interacted with myself?
Yes, I did.
Describe.
Well, it was sort of a memory of when I first met you and Elan, because, well, you are Elan, but when I first encountered you about a year ago.
Now, perhaps you perceived Bashar and not myself.
Well, no, I feel like it was both of you. But it was, Bashar was definitely there.
Ice.
And it wasn't so much visual, although I was trying to orient myself visually. And, you know, I kept seeing sort of like motorcycle outfits that you guys were wearing.
How creative.
I don't know where I keep getting that, but
They are simply symbols of your idea or interpretation of what you would consider to be our garments. They are not precise.
well, I think we all had this interchange about that and kind of laughed about it and stuff. But and then, you know, well, I stopped trying to orient myself visually, and then it was more just feelings anyway about, you know, the three of us and what we had experienced in the past, and seeing each other again.
Now, did you see any of what you would perceive to be, though perhaps seeming out of place, Indian guide?
Excuse me, Indian guide?
Ice. There are overlapping dimensions of experience, so there may be many different presentations upon our craft that may seem to have nothing to do with our civilization.
Yes, I did, but do you mean American Indian?
Simply describe what you have seen.
I saw a big stone, a sphinx-like figure that kept going from like fire and transparency back into stone, like it was sort of an Egyptian sphinx-like,
So to speak.
lion / fire.
It will have what you would call Mayan ties. So to speak, Native American Indian.
Yeah, well, I got maybe it was more Native Egyptian Indian.
In a sense.
That was the first sort of thing I encountered besides you guys. Well, in between that, there was a whole slew of Essassani, sort of light, luminescent egg sort of beings that took me and glided around with me, and it became real apparent that there's this block in me, and I felt the unconditional love and became aware of it about 5 seconds before you brought it up. And I felt it, and I know it would have just dissolved me if I, you know, could release this block I'm having.
And what did you do?
I haven't released it yet.
What is your perception of what the block is?
Self-doubt.
What does it block you from doing?
Loving myself.
All right. So then if you are simply willing to skip a step and simply do it, love yourself, there is no block. When you assume there is a block and then do not love yourself by that assumption, you get the effect of the block. When you, in that sense, are willing to only unconditionally love yourself, cut yourself slack, allow yourself the opportunity to see where perhaps you are not living up to your standard, and forgiving yourself and having the clear intention to now embody the preferred you. You simply express that love and release the block. Does that make sense, or is that too simple?
No, it makes a lot of sense.
So simply allow whatever you consider to be self-doubt, judgment, to be the opportunities for self-forgiveness and self-validation and self-unconditional love. If you unconditionally love yourself, there is absolutely nothing that you can do or think that will then result in the withdrawal of that love. So when you find the withdrawal, stop yourself in your tracks and decide, do I really wish to withdraw my self-love? Is what I have done really so serious that it is worth the entire withdrawal of my self-love? You will generally find the answer is no. It is not. I have done this. I wish to not do it again. I will not do it again next time. Therefore, it has served me, and move on. Is that of assistance?
It is. I still find it somewhat challenging when dealing with the unconscious and the shadow of the psyche to
The unconscious becomes conscious as you are willing to use your creations in the way that we are sharing. Rather than judging yourself and then judging yourself for judging yourself, you can use that judgment. You can use that creation in a positive way to define what you must believe and change it if you don't wish to believe that.
it's becoming more of a possibility, certainly moment by moment in my conscious state to finally disembark from this ancient pattern of limitation.
Well, when you simply decide in the moment to transform and do so, the quote-unquote stuff that you have accumulated will simply come up in the form of negative emotions. And when you feel those negative emotions, as you feel them and realize the timing is the perfect time to deal with it. And again, remember that your emotions are a direct windows to your beliefs. You can always say, all right, I feel this. Allow myself to feel it. Now, what must I believe? Then you use it. And when you transform that belief, there is one less thing from your historical past. So you need not go through the motions of creating a process. They will automatically come to the surface at the perfect timing in the form of emotions that you put a negative interpretation on. Then you can ask yourself, why am I doing this? And then choose to either continue to do it or change it. But at least you're taking back conscious commandment. The unconscious becomes conscious when you allow it to in the form of what you call negative emotions.
So am I finding an origin point from these negative emotions?
Well, perhaps there will be an identification many times when you fish out a belief to the historical event that perhaps you created it with. But the historical event itself is not the point. So sometimes you will not even need to know historically how it happened. Simply now that you know that it has happened and you wish to change it is really enough. If you attach an anchor to a past with it, you drag yourself back to that past rather than allowing the message itself to be the point.
That's what I keep doing, isn't it?
Well, that is what you have kept doing. I assume you will no longer.
Before I left for South Dakota, the last time I saw you, you gave my friend Jim a message for me to pay attention to the rattle.
The image of the shaking of the rattle.
And I had an experience where there was a rattling that woke me up from a dream, but it wasn't, I just wanted to touch base with you about that.
It was your own rattle. And you were in that sense making a lot of noise and saying, look out, here I come. The path of the warrior, so to speak, the peaceful warrior.
I felt like it was chicken wire against a window rattling. I mean, am I in tune with the process?
Nice. Now, will you use that and go forth with that same conviction?
It comes and goes. It's
All right.
sometimes strong, but on the ship tonight, these 4 beings gave me that same symbol that the rattle awakened me to in my dream that night 2-3 months ago. They balanced my heart with 4 directions. They gave me actual weights.
Ice.
My heart chakra. So, I have a lot of hesitation about using this information and this process I've had out there.
All right. What is the hesitation?
That in some way, what the experience was about was repeating an old negative pattern.
Do understand that you give yourself the opportunity to choose whether or not you wish to do so. And it is not that everything that you participate in is the way it must be. It is an opportunity to discern, is this me or is this no longer me? And the making of the decision that this is no longer me is as much a commitment and a decision. Is that clear?
Yeah, it is. It's been a really challenging process for me because it seems to me that this teacher figure to me comes from judgment. My problem is trusting whether it is intelligence.
Your discernment will always tell you how it relates to you. For no matter what is being taught, only can you know what is relative to you. You need not, if something is not relevant, toss it all out. You can simply take and pick and choose what is relevant and allow the rest to be relevant for someone else. It need not be, as you say, all or nothing. So therefore, begin to trust how you feel. Begin to trust your heart of heart. You know what you're doing.
Thank you. I start to see some truth in my experience with reference to what you're saying. It makes a lot of sense to me.
Well, we thank you for creating it.
I have one more question, if that's all right with everybody.
All right.
Recently I read an article about Mars and the pyramids in the face and the structure of the geometric pattern 19.5, which may be what you were talking about earlier with the pyramid.
To some degree.
Somewhere between 19 and 20 degrees. And it really piqued my interest. I mean, I had a huge response to the possibility of what this meant. And since then, you may have talked about this cave with my friend Jim, who might have asked you about it, that he's discovered just near here. And we both want to go into the cave and explore the possibility of traveling to the fourth dimension.
Well, you need not, shall we say, go to any particular place to do so. But should you wish to utilize that as a symbol, that is one possibility.
The idea is this relationship we can have with stone and the possibilities of information that is available to us in stone. And so that's why we were drawn to go to the cave, because it seems that the idea about free energy seems to be in these equations, the geometric patterns and all this information are encoded to us through the civilizations in stone.
Well, in a sense, you may understand that should you enter such a structure and in a very quiet meditative state perceive, you will generally, literally feel physical vibrations. And if in that sense you simply allow yourself to match them and become one with them, in a sense, perhaps you can say, you can then open up dialogue with the storehouse that you are speaking of.
But we could do that sitting anywhere.
Nice. But if that symbol is in that sense attractive, use it.
Is that cave man-made?
Basically, yes. But there are other overtones of other, shall we say, external influence in terms of the resonance idea of the chamber.
Extraterrestrial, you mean?
To some degree, yes.
Is it in any danger?
That is up to your planet and your civilization.
Well, they're doing construction, right?
That is what we mean. There is some possibility.
Thank you.
We thank you as well. At this timing, we will pause for a short break of 10 to 15 of your minutes of counting and resume contact at that time. All right, I'll say, continue shedding.
Go on.
Ace, female. Greetings.
Now, you were talking about future to Katira. Him?
Ice.
And you had talked.
Same thing.
She talked about herself feeling like she had come from Essassani to Earth to visit here and then go back to the future.
Ice.
I didn't clearly understand why you made. I felt a separation between now and the future.
Well, you are living and creating from what you call a timeline. So within the frame of reference of the timeline, the designations that we share apply. From the frame of reference of your higher self, perhaps you can say, which is simultaneous, infinite, and eternal, then it becomes a bit more arbitrary. But you are physical beings in a physical world, and though we will discuss many times the simultaneity, the nature of your consciousness in that way, we will also, shall we say, play within the parameters that you have created. And so to make sense, linearly speaking, that would apply.
Okay, so it's the both
Ice.
scenario. Okay. I just
Thank you for asking. Good question.
emphasize that bothness and create a link and not a separation for any aspect of myself who heard it in the separative way.
And have you done so?
Yes.
Happy integration.
Thank you. And I've listened to the Recollection 3 times, the introduction.
Oh, creating more time.
Yeah.
All right.
And chose to integrate it 3 times, and again, I will integrate it this evening and ask for your sharing with me in listening to that, because there's a part of it, and right now, could you expand on the point that I consciously understand is where time and space interact to create time? Or
Well, the creation of the space itself in this particular type of reality, then again, by necessity, creates the time to traverse it, to go from one place to another place, so to speak. Now, again, this is rather arbitrary in the overall scheme of things, but it was used as an analogy that as you create separation, as you create, for instance, space between yourself and the ideas that you express yourself to be, you then create more time in order to address each separate issue. But to boil it all down, if you simply, in any given moment from what's available, do what excites you the most with integrity, and in the process of doing so, use all your creations rather than assume any of them to be extraneous, then you literally are actively in the process of integration, and in that process, create less time, particularly in the doing of the exciting thing, for you are at one with yourself at that point.
thank you, and that makes me excited to tell you thank you about expressing in the Recollection tape that the person there was the other person. You said something like, yes, you have the judgment. He was talking about judgment about the woman that was talking, and he said, and you said, well, since you are her, so you directly related the connection and the integration of the oneness.
Nice, and therefore no time necessary to put it all together.
Thank you, and that excites me. I like living that way.
Well, continue to be excited, and we thank you as well. Shutting.
Elan.
Ice.
Good evening.
And to you, greetings.
Greetings.
Oh, interviewer of many realities.
Yes, indeed, and I love every minute of it.
And so do they.
The question I have is, it just popped into my mind, sort of like guys.
Oh, popped like a bubble.
I was in New Haven a few nights ago, and because of what I've been seeing on other TV stations about a symbol of Jesus on a tree, And I found this to be interesting, and I thought there were two other people that were also interested in this, and we went down to look at this. But from one angle on this tree, you would not apparently notice that there was this like Jesus Christ on the tree, and until,
Well, in a sense.
But then when you got away from the tree, on the other side of this tree, I saw the arms of Christ, I saw the figure of Christ, and I saw the legs intertwining with each other. And it looked like a glowing... Now, there are lights in this park. It's in a park near the Italian section of New Haven, which you're probably not familiar with if you haven't been there.
We understand the reference. For the channel likes their pizza.
So basically, it's a highly Catholic area, and there's a lot of religious people around there. And it's mixed, but when you stand away from it, you see very much so a clear image of the Christ, at least in the image that is comfortable to maybe the presentation of the people that are there looking at it.
All right.
Can you explain how that process is occurring? From my going within, I believe that process has occurred through a projected image. So like if you take a projector and you project an image onto a screen, that's what you will get.
Well, all right. If you wish to use that analogy, understand that each and every individual doing the perceiving is individually the projector of what they perceive. Now, does that make more sense?
Yes, it does, because each individual obviously is getting a different picture than the next person.
But there is a commonality, in a sense, a common ground, so to speak, through which, shall we say, there is the conducive atmosphere for the, shall we say, rendering of the general mass agreement not to see such a thing to be put aside. So it is, in that sense, a conducive mass agreed upon or mini-mass agreed upon area to allow individuals to behold such a projection from within. And again, we remind you that the second coming, so to speak, is the awakening of that Christ spirit, of that unconditionally loving energy within each individual. Mm-hmm. So you may understand that perhaps were individuals to look most closely, the face upon what they were projecting may, in a sense, resemble their own.
Mm-hmm. Also on the tree, there were two children looking exactly at each other at the bottom portion of this tree. This tree's been there supposedly for generations. And these two children were looking at each other sort of like playfully.
Nice. On
one side of the Christ. And then on the other side, there was a rabbit, or an image of a rabbit. I didn't quite understand what that had to do with everything.
Perhaps that was an interpretation by a particular child.
Okay. And this also links up to something that is, what I'm getting is going to happen in Southbury on Oversouls Day on our planet. It's right after Halloween.
Nice.
And
is, in a sense, the date that is, shall we say, remnantly representative of the destruction of Atlantis. Your All Hallows Eve being the evening before the destruction. Your November 1st being the evening of, and what you sometimes call All Saints' Day being the day after, and perhaps the true New Year.
Mm-hmm. So it's sort of an ending of an old and a beginning of a new.
In a sense.
Well, what's going to happen is that this cross on this woman's property in Southbury that we've talked about from time to time, on that day there's supposed to be the miracle on her property. And this has been channeled to her through her channels through the Interplanetary Confederation.
All right, but do understand, as in the aforementioned example, all that behold such a symbol are their own projectors. So they will behold perhaps something quite different from one another, and perhaps some individuals will perceive to project nothing.
Mm-hmm. But some will actually project something when they go and look at that cross.
That will depend upon them, but it is a possibility.
Very interesting. The other question I have is, I don't recall, in terms of going on the ship tonight, a lot of things. There was this...
Yet.
Okay. There was some images that came and went, but sort of like structural images more than anything else.
Describe.
The structural images sort of look like blocks, like silver blocks.
All right.
And I didn't quite understand what that was all about.
It is similar to the, again, aforementioned idea of the storage space of liquid light. Stacked, in a sense, would be your perception.
Okay, and why would I look at a stacked projection of liquid light?
You're asking me? Why would you?
I don't know.
What will you do with the energy within them that you can mold to whatever it is you wish?
I haven't really decided yet, I don't think.
Well,
I do remember at one point, clearly, before we were going back out of the ship, things became much more clearer to me. And I really didn't want to leave because I was starting to really phase in more of the images.
yes, but perhaps the misunderstanding lied in the fact that the clarity was necessary for the return, for the living of the life on the earth. That is where your focus is.
Mm-hmm. I did see what seemed to be a couple of beings. I think there were 3 of them, and they were wearing a black suit. I didn't quite understand that.
All right, perhaps the motorcycle people. Do you recall a specific interaction with yourself in what we would call the association conference area?
Yes, that's something that I wanted to talk about because
Do share.
I felt like I was being given, I knew I was here, but I was there, and I was nodding my head a lot as if I was talking to a lot of people. And I physically here was nodding my head, even though I was there, sort of like I was taking information or understanding something, and I don't recall what the discussions were about.
Yet.
Okay.
That is the idea. Allow the unfoldment. Allow the timing. Allow the flash of revelation of what has occurred seemingly in one moment, but it will unroll or unfurl a bit at a time.
Mm-hmm. And one final note, I guess, would be that the network itself, we have a station in New Hampshire, which I happened to, at this conference I went to in dealing with UFOs and stuff in crop circles, met another group of people at an actual TV station that wanted to be part of our network. And it was sort of like just saying, hello, how are you, and what are you all about? And that opened up a whole facilitation of the openness and discussion to the point now where they want to have a tape of one of our shows. And we're doing the show with the portrayals of the various people from your end of it that was on our second show.
Nice.
And they will be showing that on their show, on their TV station.
All right. Do understand, as we have always shared with you, that you always attract the reality that you are the vibration of. And what allows that vibration to be seen, to be experienced by others, is the action and willingness to put into motion what you are excited about. So as you have began to express physically your excitement, now so do you attract unto you all, shall we say, the reflections of like vibration. This is only the beginning in that sense.
Mm-hmm. And I understand, to me, my definition of abundance, we've talked about abundance a lot of times here, that I don't perceive abundance as just being how much money you have, but also abundance is in joy and in the love of what you do.
And in your ability to do that thing in any way that you will create to allow yourself to do it.
And I am enjoying every moment. So I thank you very much.
And you as well.
Elan.
Ace.
Greetings.
How's that imagination?
It's working okay.
Oh.
That's what I wanted to ask you about. In the beginning of the exercise, when you suggest that we dissolve ourselves into the gelatinous material inside the bubble, I could dissolve my whole body pretty easily, but I was having a really hard time dissolving my brain and eyes.
That is because you have a very strong association of yourself as the brain and eyes. A very, shall we say, telltale symbol that perhaps you still on some level believe that your consciousness is the product of your brain.
That's right. I've been trying to release from my consciousness and getting down into my intuitive knowing work.
Well, understand that you will experience either reality that you decide you wish to. So perhaps if you simply look at the idea that you wish to believe that your body is within your consciousness, that you can shift that perspective accordingly. The brain is, perhaps you can say, the physical symbol that allows, so to speak, for the midwifing of the intersection of your pure consciousness with physical reality in the form of body. But it is not the generator of the consciousness by any means, and is a result, a response of consciousness itself.
I was also thinking that the focus on the eyes was my perhaps fear of letting go of just the material world that I can see.
Well, to some degree also placing more credence in what you can see, in what you can feel, rather than assuming that all other realities are as valid. Again, perhaps an elaborate symbolic extension of what you sometimes call seeing is believing. But we remind you that believing is seeing as well.
When I was going into the ship, I was focusing on when you were saying have us coming together as many different facets of one crystal, and I was trying to see myself.
Oh, all this trying. You proceed. Simply pointing it out.
I was making an effort to.
Oh. Same thing.
Well, okay. I'm imagining myself like the people in the group going onto the ship, and I initially felt a pull to go and be with children there, but I rejected that because I wanted to work on a specific thing. Here in this life, I am able to give and take unconditional love and joy well with children and animals. But with adults, like myself, I feel reservation and fear, and I don't feel able to be a child with them. So on the ship, I was able to see, I guess, the group here, and I kind of felt like a child among children.
Nice.
And
for we do not choose to, quote unquote, lose that portion of ourselves. Oh, grow up is not one of our sayings.
It felt nice because I imagined myself folding everyone into me in a loving way. And I wanted to bring that back to me here in this world so that I could let go a lot of the fears that I have around being with other people, or take down the barriers that keep me from expressing the childlike part of me that wants to have fun with other people. And I found myself hesitating a little bit as I got back here, stepping back into my old fear. Can you suggest a way to...
Well, first of all, allow me to share a little secret, which is no secret at all. You have brought it back. Now it is simply a matter of pushing aside the trying and effortful idea of expressing it, and simply trusting that the fact that it excites you is in and of itself the sign that that particular aspect of yourself is quite near the surface, quite accessible, and your willingness to express it, not try to express it, but express it, will have a result. And that result will perhaps then perpetuate your willingness to continue to do so. So simply jump in.
Sometimes I feel like I'm too heavy with other people and I want to be lighter.
All right. All I can say that would be, in the sense, the most empowering is go right ahead. Simply lighten up. Say, oh, I'm being heavy. Time to lighten up. Excuse me. Take a few breaths. 3 deep breaths if you wish. That will lighten you right up.
Okay.
But be willing to express it. And trust that your expression of it is the perfect expression. And have some fun in the process.
That's what I really want to do here.
Then you can, and you shall, and you have brought it back. It is within you and is of you, therefore cannot be lost. Thank you for the rebirth. One moment. Do proceed.
A few more. In my job search, I've taken almost 2 years to follow my excitement to my next job, and it's led me through a number of different things. Now I'm looking at several different options, but the most attractive one would have me moving to Egypt, working for Bechtel Corporation, and working as a consultant to help them privatize their government-owned industries.
Have a good trip.
Well, I kind of wanted to get your feedback on that.
You just did.
Does it sound right to me?
Did you say something? I'm developing third density deafness.
It's the most exciting to me of all my options, but it's
Have a good trip.
scary. Okay. Now,
Bring your childlike self as well.
but it hasn't manifested yet as an orphan. Is there anything I can do to expedite that then?
Simply do from what is available and allow it to be obvious.
Okay. When I go there, well, actually, the first question's about, you said that on your planet, people do what they love, and there's someone to do everything, and there's enough for everybody.
Well, when everyone does what they love, everything gets done.
Okay. How can we, I see that as kind of a goal for this world. How can we facilitate that?
Get shaking on your own excitement as an example that such a thing is possible. When you then speak to people who say they are quote unquote excited about what formally you label mundane things, encourage them as well. For what is mundane to one is sublime to another. That is why all gets done. If individuals do not let society talk them out of their excitement, if their excitement is not something that is societally exciting.
Okay, but I think my excitement is taking me into developing structures, reforming governments in a way, and I want to do it in a way that will facilitate one-on-one people following their excitement. So
as you do that, you are a beacon. As you do that, you are an example that can be beholded and seen by others. Only will the proof that such a thing is possible through the living of these ideas have a profound effect on a great number of people. Very often individuals will share a philosophy, and in not living it, individuals perceiving or listening to the philosophy will say, well, that sounds nice, but look at you.
okay.
Now, the idea is, if it sounds nice and you are embodying it, then they see not only does it sound nice, but it is possible. Look, and that is the greatest service you can be.
Okay. Now, I understand that. Thank you. Now, in Egypt, what I will be working on, most of the big industries there are owned by the government and very inefficient. When they try to privatize them to improve the efficiencies and raise the standard of living, the fundamentalist faction there starts riots to kind of throw down the government. So how can I develop I can go in and say what needs to be done efficient, how to make the industry more efficient, but how can I do it in a way that's sensitive to that fundamentalist group there? And so, in other words, it's something that will work and not just be a nice play on it.
By empathizing and researching their point of view, rather than assuming that the only way to change would be to exclude their point of view. In the researching of their point of view, you can then incorporate a third alternative that allows that point of view and at the same time has the desired end product.
Okay, the way, maybe I'm wrong, but what I perceive their point of view is that they want to implement the old laws of the Quran in their government, very strict things that most people in Egypt don't want to go along with.
Well, understand that the majority, in a sense, will decide. But that does not mean in any way that you cannot be sensitive to at least what you feel are their concerns by becoming familiar to them. For you may find again that a majority of them can be addressed and at the same time allow for what you would perceive or perhaps label progress.
In this country, it seems that a lot of our problems stem from a structurally mandated focus on short-term profits at the expense of quality and concern for workers, concern for the environment, and concern for society.
To some degree, yes. That is one contributing factor.
How can we, what can be done to motivate or to change the structure to one that's more balanced?
Well, again, not to be overly repetitive, but providing whatever relevant, living example you can. Because when you do that, and individuals around you become interested in that, they will do it in their own way. They will do it in the many ways that is not or are not exciting to you. It begins a momentum, but it grows in what you call an exponential way, a pyramidic way.
Okay, so I understand. Okay, thank you. And how would a presidential candidate, if elected, do that?
Clarify.
Well, if a presidential candidate, what structural changes would they make to facilitate the kind of world where people are following their excitement and getting us away from our unbalanced materialistic focus now?
Well, that is a general question. And it is our perception, at least at this time with what's in place, that that is not necessarily even the intention. So we are not quite sure what you are asking in terms of what is in place.
That's not the intention of either of the presidential candidates, but I was just curious, what can we do to facilitate making our world more like yours?
Well, again, as each individual is willing to express this through their own reality, which is the only reality they can respond from, be responsible for, then it has a contagious effect. And should an individual grab onto this idea, who is, as you say, a politician, and becomes a living example of the doing of the excitement, that in and of itself will also be quite contagious.
Okay, thank you. The Avatar, have you ever heard of or are you familiar with the Avatar course through my familiarity?
We understand the reference.
The intellectual part of it sounds exactly like what you say, and I'm drawn to it. However, it's too expensive for me now. And the part I don't understand or have access to without taking it is the experiential exercise. However, synchronistically, I think you started out with 2 exercises very much like what would be contained in that course.
Well, very much. And understand that once you create the bubble round and about you and perceive that the center point in that bubble is what is represented by your body, and that body is not who you are, but contained within who you are, and you are opening the eyes of your consciousness at that center point, you can consciously decide and play around with the idea of closing your eyes at that central point, opening them elsewhere within the overall bubble of your consciousness. And then from the perspective of that center point, you will have seemed to be, quote unquote, out of body. But all you truly will have done was shift your perspective within your totality. And the understanding of this, shall we say, allows you greater access to that style of exploration than perhaps identifying with and as a body that you need get out of. You simply need to open your other eyes and close the eyes attached to your symbolic brain.
Another question that I have, in past interactions with you, I felt sometimes like you were being critical of me.
Oh, no. And I know that perhaps pointing some things out, but without any judgment.
I didn't feel that way tonight, and I know I often project onto other people that they don't like me, and I was wondering, is that completely my projection if I felt that way in the past, or?
Well, utilizing us as an example, yes. For all we do is re-empower you and speak to you sometimes with the force that will awaken that idea within you. But never is it ever suggested that you are doing anything improper. Simply that what you are doing is not yielding the results that you say you desire. Therefore, in pointing that out and then providing alternatives, there is an interchange. Your willingness to perceive criticism is your criticism of yourself from what I am saying. But never from my end do I ever in any way judge you to be, listen very carefully, any less than myself in any way at all.
Sometimes I felt that you were frustrated with me.
No.
Not getting.
Absolutely not. Emphatic, perhaps. Frustrated? No way.
Okay.
And we are pleased with your willingness to look at these many ideas. For even when we did, in that sense, share an exercise with your imagination, the frustration was from your end.
Okay.
If you will recall.
You mean just now while we were in the ship?
In an aforementioned interaction.
Oh, okay.
Whereby we had you recreate the referential, preferential you. The frustration was from your end. But simply do it, and there will be nothing to be frustrated about. Frustration is not doing what is in front of you in the moment and assuming you should be doing something else.
I felt a little frustrated on the ship, like I wasn't doing it right. And I thought I felt you and some of my guides come kind of reassure me.
That you were doing it right and that you, in fact, could not do it wrong. But you could perceive and judge yourself. That will always be your option. But rather than berating yourself for having judged yourself, use that creation. Ask yourself when you have some time to look at it. Why did I judge myself? Rather than judging myself for judging myself, let's just say, all right, I judged myself. Now, in that situation, what must I have believed to have done so? I believe this, and that belief will then enlighten you, so to speak, to a belief that you may wish to change.
Okay. I felt like I wasn't at the level of joy that I wanted to have on the ship, and I'm often overly critical of myself.
All right. It is our perception that there were, as you say, moments of that joy as well.
Yeah.
So it is not this or that, it is both.
And a suggestion on how to move to having more of the joy?
Follow your excitement and do what you can do that is exciting with your integrity. Not only is it the recognition of the excitement, but the doingness, the willingness to act without hesitation, with conviction, because you say so.
Okay. And one last question. Of all the past tapes of yours, or Bashar's, that I haven't listened to, which one do you think would be the most helpful to me?
Trust yourself.
Thank you.
All right, if you wish. Also, what you call, one moment, unconditionally yours will apply in the sense of self-unconditional love. And a fun evening.
Elan. Thank you very much.
Are you through?
Well,
Or do you have another last question?
I did have one more, but it wasn't so relevant to my process. It was more out of curiosity.
Oh, all right. No such thing as idle curiosity. Do proceed.
In your growth from fourth to fifth dimension, what are the issues that you're dealing with?
Well, issues, not really. Joyous experience and exploration would involve, again, beginning to de-emphasize external tools and symbols and begin to directly experience us ourselves as the reality that we formally, in a sense, created to be within, so to speak. Therefore, what you call sleep is more or less vestigial. What you call food is more or less vestigial. What you call the sexual act is now becoming more of an energetic exchange than a bodily exchange, though there still are some remnant ideas in terms of the bodily exchange.
But they're still separate selves?
At this timing, for now, there is not the sense of separation from all that we interact with. There is an inherent understanding of each person as an extension of ourselves. Therefore, what you call loneliness simply does not exist.
And would your consciousness be described as pure awareness?
At perhaps this point in the way that you mean, not exactly. There is still a degree of focus, which is by necessity an expression in physical reality. We are beginning in that sense to defocus and again de-emphasize physicality itself. At this point, it becomes slightly untranslatable, for you are one step removed from that process. But it is a, shall we say, form of expansion without losing what we are expanding from, but containing what we are expanding from, if that makes sense.
Okay. And just one last thing. I often meditate and feel like I'm talking to you and getting directions from you. Is that actually happening?
If there is absolutely no criticism.
Okay.
Never would we say you are screwing up. Never will we say you should do this. And never will we say, why did you do that? Therefore, when you hear those voices, they are your own.
Okay. Thank you very much for all of that.
And you as well. One moment, the engineer, the patient engineer. Do proceed.
Oh, I feel so good about that. Greetings.
And to you.
I have some quickies.
Oh, all right. Time's up. Next, shut up.
I deserve that.
All right. You deserve it all.
In Essassani, you have no language. You're tel-empathic. Okay, my question has to do with, in a sense, you're reading each other's minds. How do you achieve privacy?
There is the allowance of such an idea if an individual would so choose, which we generally do not, in terms of what you might call, loosely speaking, a privacy energy field, so to speak. It is available, but rarely sampled. For there is a joy in the constant and consistent connectedness. Nothing to escape. Nothing to, shall we say, recollect unto ourselves. But from time to time, individuals do have that option. And you will also find generally in what you would call private session, where I or another member of my society would interact one-on-one or one-on-two or three with members of your society, a privacy field in that particular instance, unless in that sense it is requested that there is not.
Sounds like Maxwell Smart's isolation chamber.
All right. Perhaps the difference is that we can hear what we are saying.
A couple of sessions ago, you gave me some wonderful information about motherships. And of course, you have your scout craft. I think you mentioned also city ships.
Well, in a sense, that is synonymous with mothercraft. Though in some other societies, the ships will appear as more city-like from your perspective and definition, but they are interchangeable terms.
Okay. Another quickie. What is the difference between unconditional love to a spouse versus to everybody else?
No difference. Unconditional love is your willingness to love no matter what, no matter who, no matter when.
Okay, but on Essassani, you do have mates. You don't get legally married, but you have mates.
Well, to some degree, what you may understand is that we, in being spontaneous, are constantly changing, constantly doing, as you say, different things. Therefore, we will always attract whatever individuals are, shall we say, sharing similar explorations at that time. So perhaps you can say the bond will be the interest in what is being done. And as that transforms many times, so will a certain relationship in that way. It is more experiential than exclusionary.
As you are well aware, in our culture, we can be overly spontaneous and maybe get into some trouble. Anyway.
Well, when you do not factor in integrity with your excitement, yes. When you factor in integrity and are willing to trust your decision from that point forward, never. The difficulty comes from, again, the lack of trust or the understanding that this excites me, but it certainly is not within my integrity.
You and I have talked about what's constant in the universe, and I want to ask, Are the number of oversouls in any way a constant?
In a sense, no. That is an infinite idea. Well, so therefore also yes. Yes and no.
Okay. Is an oversoul
Just to be clear about it.
the final ultimate quickie? Okay. By midnight tonight, will my brother have experienced something significant today?
Chances are what you would call 3 a.m. in the morning.
Okay. Coming up.
Ice.
Yet to come. Thank you very much.
There is a doorway that began 3 a.m. of this past morning.
I see. Thank you.
Elan.
Bye.
Elan.
Ice, female.
Hi, Elan.
Greetings.
I'm so grateful you're willing to share yourself with us.
And I am grateful that you all bless us with your presence as well.
My life is going really well. I don't have any feeling of being governed by anything outside myself anymore.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a really nice feeling. I don't feel as if I have to live up to any lofty ideals or save thousands of people to be worthwhile.
Now, in the determination of who you are and moving with that, you very well may have that effect. But you need not fixate upon it.
Well, I feel so content with what I'm doing, what's in my life, and the people that are in my life. I feel very happy. And I know learning and using your viewpoints has made a big difference.
All right. Now, again, they are not my viewpoints exclusively. You contained them and allowed me to rattle them loose, so to speak.
I have a friend who I play tennis with and have known for quite a while, and she listens to what I have to say about your concepts and how I use them and how they affect my life, and she's very receptive.
Have she noticed that you're a better loser?
Yeah, she has.
A living example.
She certainly has. She's a very tough tennis player. But she has a dog. Her name is Diane, and her dog's name is Will. It's a Labrador Retriever.
Oh.
And this dog is a nightmare for her. He's almost 2 years old, and he's still very contrary. Causes her a lot of problems, and she's really upset about it. She's tried all kinds of obedience schools, and she's very loving to the dog. She does everything she can think of to help. And the last time I saw her, the dog had just done something and he'd run off, and she was very upset. And I loaned her the tape by the Zeta Reticulum Heron on the Animal Kingdom, because he talks a lot about. She listened to that, and she cannot figure out how this is serving her. And I was wondering if you had any thoughts.
Ice. Again, very often when defining oneself in your particular reality, individuals will provide reflections of who they are. But as well, they will define themselves through the process of elimination, providing many examples of who they are not. Her willingness to make a determination and then a subsequent decision in terms of transforming the situation will be of best benefit to her. If it is not of preference for her to be in interaction in that particular circumstance, then she can, with her excitement and her integrity, make other arrangements.
The only arrangement she can see is to have the dog put to sleep, because
that is not our perception.
The only other thing would be to give the dog to someone, or she can't see presenting someone else with this problem.
Well, if in that sense she is quite clear in the definitions of what it is she is offering, then it will enable any other individual she attracts to enter into the arrangement eyes open. But do not assume that what is one person's burden will not be perceived by another as a challenge. It is not the only option. And perhaps you can say not necessarily the most integrated option.
Yeah, right. Okay, that's very helpful.
Well, thank you. Thank the dog the symbol of service and allow her to derive that the service can literally be defining her preference and non-preference.
He's a beautiful dog, but he is a rascal.
Oh. Again, many will find this as a challenge, but only if you allow them to see her.
Okay.
Is that all?
That's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Over there, male.
Elan?
Ace.
When we initiated this evening's interaction, at the point where we were reconstructing ourselves in the blue gelatinous material,
Ace.
and you had said, and you can be that body, or that body can be yours, the body you're constructing in that material.
Well, for at least that moment, you are that body. Now, you can continue by your definitions to be that body, or you can continue to devolve it into the old body.
Yes. My question is, at that point, the next thing I recall is Maggie's sharing. So from that point till Maggie was sharing sometime later, I was off someplace.
Ace.
Could you fill me in at all on where I was, what was going on, what kind of process was going on? Because I did not feel like I just fell asleep.
Oh.
Because when I awoke or became conscious again, it wasn't like waking up from sleep. It was like coming back.
All right. Follow a thread. What is the first thing beyond, in between the bubble and the sharing that you remember? Prior to, as you say, falling asleep this evening of your time, affirm, while you are relaxed and perhaps about to drift off, that you are now ready to remember what has occurred. Be firm, have conviction, have commitment, and then allow yourself to simply gently fall asleep. Pay particular attention to what occurs in your dream reality, and upon waking, write it down. If you wish, it is only a suggestion.
Can I ask, are you aware of where I went and what went on?
To some degree, but there is in and of itself, in your willingness to bring it forth by yourself, a particular act that makes a statement that also then enables me to expand upon it.
I see. Was it a process that involved direct Essassani participation?
Amongst other ideas.
Okay, thank you very much.
There was participation and direct interaction with, shall we say, several different, distinct and discrete civilizations, some of which have direct ties to your, in this lifetime, past experience.
Well, I had the feeling that I had been taken someplace and that I'd gone through a process to prepare me for something.
All right.
It wasn't just a physical process; it was a
energetic.
Energetic,
process,
yes, an energetic process,
so to speak.
Specifically, exactly, it was an energetic process.
Nice.
As though the energetic fields that I operate in have been altered to some extent, or my ability to be sensitive to energy fields outside of the electromagnetic wavelength that I'm used to has been facilitated.
Other options were provided, and you may now follow them should you choose. But one further suggestion that we will make is, as an image, as a symbol after what we have just suggested, as you are falling asleep, invoke what you have called and referred to as the Birdman.
Thank you very much.
And to you.
Elan?
Ace, female.
Thank you. When I was sharing earlier about when we were on the ship and I saw children playing with balls of light.
Ace.
When I was thinking about what I was going to share about that, I almost didn't share that because I've had that vision before. Once before, when I was in the expanded state, I saw children playing with balls of light, tossing them back and forth.
Well, your connection to us is not new.
Did I experience that myself personally?
Ah. Now you are exploring some ideas. and I will allow you to continue.
Because when I came upon the ship and I saw the children playing with the balls of light, it was very familiar to me. It wasn't like, oh, look at what they're doing. It was almost like I understood the game that they were playing.
In a sense, yes. And you have played that game, so to speak, before, at least from the perspective of your higher self.
I have another question then. The woman that I shared, that I touched right hands with, was there a specific message that she had for me?
The symbol represented an opening of what you would label your intuitive self, but not at the expense of your analytical side. Both can work in tandem. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You need not forsake one for the other. They are one expression, one idea.
I was asked a question last week by somebody in a fire sort of initiation ceremony. The question was asked of me, when am I going to begin to channel? And my response to this was a great deal of fear.
Why?
Having read many books and many people's experiences of anxiety and fear at least the initial stages of channeling and confusion.
But that was before the definition was rendered that anxiety and excitement are identical with simply different interpretations. And understand, though perhaps an interpretation will at first be automatic, it is your choice to continue to interpret it that way, or upon having discovered that you are interpreting it in an unpreferred way, to change the interpretation. So play with that.
One other idea that I've had for a little while, and I've never spoke, is I have a feeling that when I played with the balls of light, that the balls of light may now be my dogs. Is there any connection?
Perhaps in the playfulness of the energy, but not directly. It is because there is a similarity in that playfulness, the possibility for that identification.
Okay, because it's the same feeling.
All right.
When I play with the dogs now.
All right.
Thank you.
And to you. Ace.
Yes, Elan. I have several questions. One is to deal with the entity Jesus.
All right.
And a book I read said that he didn't die on the cross. That was a follower that was drugged and that went ahead and.
That is not our perception.
Okay.
Is that all?
No. That just ruined that whole book.
Now. Did you enjoy reading it?
Yes, that was.
Then it ruined nothing.
Oh, okay. But you know, made the book not believable now, because in the book he said that that was someone else.
All right, but do understand again that you need not, unless you wish to, have an all or nothing approach.
Oh.
Take what works. Take what means something to you and use it. That which does not, thank it and push it on its way. But you need not, because one thing is not relevant, toss out everything. You can, but you will then not be gleaning from every possible source all the things you wish to attract. And the more you are willing to allow it to come in any form, then that will have it happen that much more quickly.
In that same book, you mentioned you said about the second coming.
Yes.
They said that was the second coming, and the third coming would be Paul coming back to fix the mistakes that he made.
All right. That is one way to look at it, but again, not our exact perspective. And understand there have been many incarnations of the Christ consciousness. So saying that that was the first, so to speak, is not entirely accurate. But that is perhaps the first in that particular individual form.
The three entities that were in Christ, three person in the Christ entity would be Paul, Jesus, and John the Baptist.
Well, that is one way to look at it. Perhaps another way to look at it is that Jesus would, in that sense, represent the male aspect of that energy, and what you sometimes call Mary is also of the same energy, of the same essence, the female representation.
Think of that.
You just did.
A personal question for myself. Lately, I've been getting lightheaded.
All right.
And I don't know whether to attribute that to bad health or I'm in transformation.
Well, how exciting. Which will you choose?
Well, I like to think transformation, but I'm also going to the doctor Tuesday to check.
Oh, all right. Covering both ends.
You have a perspective?
Our perspective is that it is entirely up to you. Whatever you decide is the reality you will experience, but it is entirely up to you. One other suggestion in terms of a practical suggestion would be to work with or play with perhaps your breath and breathing. Deep breaths, allowing the oxygenation of your system, the stilling of your mind, and the direct connection to the source of the answer to this question.
Can I use that in my therapy?
'Tis up to you.
What you just gave me.
If you wish.
That would assist me in helping others to heal themselves?
If they participate. You can use anything you wish. It's up to you. Is that all? For now.
For now.
All right.
In our we're going to have a session later together.
All right.
I have some good questions for that.
You always do.
Yes, thank you.
John.
Hi.
Greetings.
Good evening. 2 weeks ago, after Pine Mander.
Now, do speak up. We would not want to miss this.
No, I didn't want to miss it either. I went home. I stayed outside for a few minutes, looked at the stars, and someone said, "Go to bed." I went to bed. I won't say it was a horrible dream because it wasn't a nightmare. It was just very frightening. I still can't remember what it was. At the time, it was very vivid. But it woke me up. And as soon as I felt I was awake, there was a white light penetrating my left temple. I was sleeping I was on my stomach. It was warm. And I went, "They're here."
Oh, how original.
And all you gotta do is open your eyes, turn around, and see. It's that simple. And I wrote all this down the next day. I didn't bring it with me. But I kept fighting back and forth, turn around and look at them. No, I can't do that. Turn around and look at them. No, I can't do that. And as I'm thinking this, the light started to recede. And the final thought was, you better look now or you're not going to see it. And at that point in time, I opened my eyes, turned my head, and they're gone. Who wanted that?
It can be representative as extraterrestrial. And the dream, in very much the same way, was the representation of not wishing to face something within you. In the instance of the dream, an actual chase did in that sense ensue.
Yeah, there was a chase.
But what was not understood perhaps at the time is that no one was chasing you. A portion of yourself that it would behoove you to look at was presenting itself and you were refusing to face it. Understand, on the one hand, you will always have that choice. And the quote-unquote waking experience was an example that it is up to you. But your willingness to turn around and face what you are running from is the only opportunity that you give yourself to use what you are running from in a positive way. We remind you, as we many times do, that you cannot find out anything about yourself at all that you cannot use in a positive way. And if you simply remember that, then you need not run from anything. But you have the choice, and that was another point.
It's when I looked at it, it was like I'm getting closer. I'm radiantly willing to look at it that much quicker.
Nice. And you can inch ever closer a bit at a time, or simply be there. It is up to you. But neither path is any less valid.
Thank you.
And to you. There will be but a few more moments left to this interaction. Shutting. Female. Nice.
Martha's Vineyard, I was out on the dock and connecting to dolphin energy and other energies in a playful way, and I fell asleep and the fog rolled in. It was a very beautiful night, and I want to ask for your insight on where the dolphins were at that moment. Were they physically...
Nice. Very close.
And what was my resistance or theirs to having a physical interaction?
Yours.
Yes. Okay. What? Okay.
For now, that will suffice. Look at that. Look at it within yourself. At this timing, allow us to express in love, in joy, in ecstasy, our undying appreciation for your willingness to expand into yourself, to realize it is possible to begin to create your reality according to preference. You are the very home itself. There is no place like home because you are the home. Simply be who you are and you will express, no matter where you are, your heart. And that is where, in a sense, your home does lie. Therefore, we thank you and bid you a most fond and loving life dream and dream lives and good evening.